ever wonder, no matter how hard you try to keep the peace, resentment, anger, and bitterness keep rearing their ugly heads? And ever thought that maybe they were trying to tell you something? In this video, I'm teaching you my human fulfillment model, this simple framework that shows you how to stop ignoring your gut and listen to what is creating those feelings of bitter, angerness, and resentment so that they can work for you. And if you've been trying to protect your relationship by staying quiet or not rocking the boat, this one thing is going to change everything in your relationship so that you no longer carry those feelings of bitterness, anger, and resentment towards your partner. So let's talk about why you are really angry. You like to think, we as humans like to think that it's our partner, our boss, our mom, our kids, the ex, our partner's ex, your best friend's partner that is causing the problems. It is creating the anger and bitterness within you. But what is actually happening is that you are ignoring you. And I talked about in my last video about how usually when I feel bitterness, anger, and resentment is when I'm washing the dishes. And this is such an easy way to understand how what it is we are doing is actually causing the anger, resentment, or bitterness, that we like to project that onto somebody else because it feels easier than taking accountability for our own actions. Now, I don't know why that is when I feel anger, resentment, and bitterness, but for some reason, when I am doing the dishes, that is what I feel. And not every time, but like that is when I notice it surfacing. And I think it represents other things in my life that I'm allowing those feelings to build. And it just happens to be that moment that I feel them. And the reason it is then is because I am like, why won't anybody else help me? My kids are so lazy. My husband doesn't help, blah, 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 like whatever it is. And I go off in my head, creating this story of why it's everybody else's fault that I am here doing the dishes. I'm the only one that does them, and I'm pissed and angry and bitter and whatever else I'm feeling. When in reality, the issue is that I have been unwilling to ask other people to help me because I don't want to have to deal with their response to my request. I don't want to have to take up that space. I don't want to ask my husband to help me after he's been at work all day and done all of these things for our family while I've been working from home. Yes, still working from home and taking care of everything in the house. But there's something in us as women that we have been conditioned to believe that we must sacrifice, that it is beautiful to be the martyr. And we hold this as like a trophy almost of, oh, I am so self-sacrificing and I am like so pissed and angry and I am the victim here. And therefore, I am worthy and wonderful, and that is my strength. And so we hold it as this little trophy off to the side, and we keep it in our hearts, and we let it fuel us. And it fuels us to be better and to do better, and that feels really good, because then we can prove how much better we are than everybody else. And so we let these feelings grow and develop, and ultimately we're pissed about them, but we don't know what to do about them. Because first of all, they give us our trophy. And secondly, they are like, they're somebody else's problem. It's because of somebody else that we're carrying them. But in that moment, when I refuse to ask somebody else to help me with the dishes, and I refuse to ask for help in anything that I am doing, it is my issue. And women will say, well, I shouldn't have to ask for help. They should know. I shouldn't have to do this. They should know. They don't know unless we tell them. They don't know that we are just as tired. They don't know that we are looking for support and that we don't care if they put the dishes in the dishwasher the wrong way and that we just want some help. Side note, if you have an issue asking for help because you want it done your way, that is a whole nother thing you need to deal with and release. And it is on you 100% that you are living that way. And it's on each of us that we allow ourselves to sit in this and not ask for help. And instead, we embrace victimhood and we lean into martyrdom. And you know what the cool thing is about this when we acknowledge this and understand this and realize this and see how this plays out in the human fulfillment model that I'm going to show you here in a second, is that then we get our power back. Then we get to stand up for ourselves. then we get to understand where we need to ask for help and how to receive that help. And what happens then is our relationships get better and other people feel safe to ask for help. And we get to give them help where it feels good for us, not where it doesn't feel good. We get to have those boundaries in place and we get to create more joy in our relationships, in our lives, in our work. And it is amazing and beautiful. But until we acknowledge that, until we acknowledge the disconnect and how we have allowed ourselves to sit in the anger and bitterness and resentment, then we can't invite in their help. And we can't feel those feelings of peace and safety and comfort that we are looking for, and connection to our partner, and connection to our kids, and connection to whoever else or whatever else we want that connection with in our lives. All right, so I am going to pull up the human fulfillment model. You are going to see it here. And as we go through this, I am going to explain the importance of this model and how you can use this to understand your own feelings of anger, bitterness, resentment, so that you can release those and invite in something that feels really, really good for you in your life. Okay, so here is the human fulfillment model. And as you can see, we've got learning to trust our gut on one side, and then on the bottom, we have gut action. And what this means is hearing our gut, when we are able to actually hear our gut and hear it clearly. Often we have too many noises coming in, too many outside opinions, too much Google searching, too much social media or whatever in here to hear our gut. And then on the bottom right here, where we have gut action, that means we are taking action on the thing that we are feeling. So we are taking action on what our gut is telling us. We are taking action on our intuition and that type of verbiage. So I want to show you where in this model the anger and resentment and bitterness start to show up. And so here we are going to deal with resentment. You see it down in this bottom right corner over here. And I don't actually know if that's correct, depending on how this all looks, but it is in the bottom corner and you see it here. And what you can tell in this is that we are taking a lot of action. Now, when we are taking all this action, it's not necessarily gut action, but we are taking action and we are getting things done. And if you've heard me in previous videos talk about like how we are really good at making decisions, but really we're just good at making decisions for everybody else and not for ourselves, this is where resentment lies. This is where we start sitting in that and feeling that. And so we want to understand that in this, we are looking very successful. We are looking like we are doing all the things and we are getting everything done, but it is mostly performative. It isn't actually in alignment with what we want and need. It doesn't feel true to who we are. It isn't bold action because it isn't true to us. In this spot, we might be able to hear our gut vaguely, but we aren't really allowing it to be heard. We are just pushing it down and we're taking the actions that we know everybody else wants us to take, okay? And as we do that, we start gaining resentment towards people in our lives, towards things in our life, towards our kids, towards work, towards our partners, whatever it is, because we are just going for everybody else. And we're not showing up for ourselves, and therefore nobody else is showing up for ourselves, and we keep allowing it. And so we get resentful, we get angry, and all those things start piling up. Now, the next thing that can happen is we hear our gut. We know what it is calling us to do. We hear it deep down there, and we just keep pushing it aside. We just keep, you go away because I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to take that step. I don't want to have to deal with the decisions that will need to be made if I listen to my gut. So we can hear our gut and we keep not listening to it. And we are like, the hearing is loud, but we aren't acting on it at all. We are in this thing where we might be taking action, but we're not taking a lot of action because we hear our gut and it is like calling us, it's like slowing us down and it's keeping us in indecision. So we're getting into overwhelm, or we're indecision fatigue, or we are spiraling about things that we need to do. And ultimately we are getting bitter because life is not going our way and it doesn't feel the way our gut is telling us it could feel, because we are unwilling to take action on what our gut is telling us. Okay? So that is where bitterness starts to build. You know what you need to do and you aren't acting on it. You're suppressing it. You are probably not getting a lot of things done, or at least not as much as you would like to, because this is too loud, but we're still trying to ignore it. And so we can't function the way we would like to function. All right. The next thing that happens is down in this bottom corner where we can't really hear ourselves anymore and we aren't taking action. So confidence comes from taking action. Confidence comes from taking action specifically on what our gut wants and needs. So when we get into this bottom corner, we are sitting in a lot of anxiety, depression, and those come from other things. I get that as well, like this, but it fuels those. It creates more anxiety and depression in our lives. We are also sitting in a lot of victimhood and overwhelm. We are in lack of clarity, and we are pissed, we are angry, we are resentful, we are bitter. Like, we are carrying it all when we get into this lower corner over here where we aren't hearing our gut and we aren't taking action because we have shut everything off. And you might be getting through like the day-to-days. This is what I often think of as like very survival mode. Maybe something has happened in life and you are just trying to survive, and that is okay. We can be in survival mode and still be taking action on our gut. But sometimes, it's honestly just deep victimhood of where we're like, everybody else is to blame. My life is a shit show. It's all somebody else's fault. And I'm so overwhelmed with resentment and bitterness and anger, I can't do anything about it. And somebody else needs to fix my life for me. And when we get here, or the beautiful thing of seeing this model and being able to place ourselves in it, is that we can then do something about it. We can say, okay, if I am sitting in overwhelm and I'm feeling really insecure and I'm lacking clarity and I don't know what I want, and I'm really sitting in this victimhood and it doesn't feel good there, it really does not feel good down there, you guys, then we can do something about it. We're not going to beat ourselves up for being there. We're not going to be like, oh my gosh, you haven't taken any action. You're a piece of poop. You've just been shitting on yourself. You're lazy. You're just like blah, blah, blah. You're worthless. Like, whatever things come up for you, we're not going to sit in that. We're going to say, oh, I see how I'm sitting here in this victimhood and this overwhelm, and I'm really angry. And that's a signal to me that I need to start listening to my gut and I need to start acting on it. Okay? We're going to get into these different spots at different times during our life, and we're not going to beat ourselves up for it. We've been conditioned to beat ourselves up for it. We've been conditioned that when we feel these things, we then make it all our fault, and we then beat ourselves up. So then we dive deeper into them, and that's bullcrap. We are going to leave that behind. We're going to start showing up for ourselves so that we can leave behind the resentment. We can leave behind the bitterness. We can leave behind the anger, and then we can create a life that feels really freaking good to us, even though it doesn't look the way we imagined. Now, when we come down to this last part, we see over here, when we can hear our gut and we are taking action on it. This is where we build safety, confidence, clarity, joy, peace, calm, and ultimately feel successful in our life, even when our life doesn't look the way we thought it would. And I know this from experience and from the hundreds of women I have worked through this model and through my decision-making formula. Like, I know it works, and I've seen it time and time again, that even when life goes off the rails, when you are moving through it in a place where you are listening to your gut and you are taking gut action, you are acting on those things you feel, shit may be hitting the fan, and you still get to have this sense of safety and joy and peace. And I remember when I was going through the divorce with my first husband, people asking me like, how are you so at peace and so calm and confident in what you're doing? And I used to attribute it back to the scriptures, which it still kind of ties into that. But at the time, the only way I could express it was that there's scripture that talks about the peace of Christ surpasseth all understanding. And for me, that's what that was, is there is this peace that came because I trusted what God was putting in my heart. And what God puts into your heart, or your gut intuition, is God, source, universe, whatever you believe in or like to attach to, speaking to you. It is in here saying, yes, this is what I'm calling to you. Be brave enough to act, and I will create and lay out this safety and confidence and peace, even when things are hard and heavy. And yeah, the joy might be hard to find in that moment, but you're going to have it because you feel safe enough to have it when it comes. You feel peace enough to find that joy when it comes and embrace it. Joy is actually, side note here, the feeling we are most afraid to feel because it is fleeting, because it doesn't stay. And we will get to somewhere where we're in a place of joy and we're like, oh shit, I'm going to lose this. What is going to happen next? Instead of enjoying and embracing the joy, we let it go because we're so afraid of what is going to happen next and when the shoe is going to drop and when the joy is going to go away. But when we do this, when we listen to our gut and take action on it, we actually get to be at peace in the joy and feel safe enough to hold the joy for as long as it lasts and embrace it. This is the beauty of this model. This is the beauty of knowing and understanding this, is that when we start feeling these different things, we know how to get ourselves back to a place of safety and confidence and joy and peace. And if relationships start building bitterness and resentment and anger, we get to understand, is there something here I can do about it? Or is this person, like I've already created the safety in myself, and now my body is telling me this person, this relationship isn't safe enough to stay in. Okay? If you have questions about this, drop down into the comments because I would love to answer those for you. But this is why this human fulfillment model is important, is so that we can understand this and feel this in our life and know how we get to create fulfillment for ourselves. And that is in that moment up here in this box where we are listening to our gut and we are taking bold, imperfect action on it. That is what you'll always hear me say, be bold. Take that bold, imperfect action. It is never going to be perfect. Stop waiting for it to be perfect and start acting. Also, you're not going to know what happens on the other side. But when you are trusting your gut, you know that on the other side of that action, you are going to get the information you need to keep moving forward. That is why we take action. Action builds confidence, not the researching or trying to understand everything. Action is what builds confidence. Take it, use it, live in it. Okay, so where am I? What feelings of anger, bitterness, resentment am I feeling? Go take the should score quiz. It'll give you that in 5 questions or less. And you can go to heyjessicafrew.com/quiz and you can take that there. And it's going to tell you where you are living into this should or the bitterness or anger or resentment, and give you that starting step of knowing where you are at, because we need to know where we're at to be able to move forward. On another level, if you've already taken the should quiz, kind of see yourself in that, or if you want another thing to get to understand yourself, I want you to know that by sitting in this, by not acting on the things that are best for you and allowing yourself to sit in the bitterness, anger, and resentment, it is costing you money. Like literal dollars are falling out of your bank account because you aren't taking action. And if you want to know how much money, I have developed a quiz to tell you that too. It is called the Indecision Cost Calculator. And again, in 5 questions, it will tell you how much it is costing you to not take action in your business, in your relationships, in your health, in your parenting, like all these different things. And you can go take that. It is free as well. It is at theboldlogic.com/indecision. You can find both the links down below. Go check them out. These are vital tools to help us understand why we need to start and where to start. Don't sit on this. If you aren't feeling these things I am talking about, you have the power in you to take action and embrace something that feels better for you. After we've just been through this whole fulfillment model and talked about this some, I want you to understand that you have been doing this, you have been staying quiet, you have allowed these feelings to develop because you think, or we think, this isn't just you, this is so many of us, that's why I can speak to this, is because I've experienced it and I've worked with hundreds of women who have experienced it. We think that by staying silent It keeps things calm. It keeps the peace. It keeps things manageable. But in that moment, we are creating these feelings of anger and resentment. We are creating a storm within ourselves. And things don't feel calm. They feel like a jumbled mess, and they feel like exhaustion and confusion and overwhelm and indecision and overthinking and decision paralysis and all of these things. And so we aren't actually creating the space or the calm to be present and connected to the things in our lives, because in the back of our heads, we are carrying all of these feelings, but on the outside, we look like we are keeping the calm and the peace and all those things for everybody else. You aren't protecting your relationship by ignoring what is best for you. I have a recent example of this. New Year's Eve. I had been asking my teenagers for weeks what they were planning on doing and if they wanted me to plan anything. I'd been asking my husband what he wanted to do, and nobody was telling me anything. They all were just being quiet about it. And finally I was like, okay, I'm not planning anything. Everybody's gonna do their own thing, like whatever. And then come the day of, everybody's gonna be home for dinner. Everybody's gonna be around until like 11 o'clock at night. And there is this unspoken rule that I will be feeding people. I will be feeding their friends. I will be doing all these things because that is the unspoken rule. That is the reality I have created, which I love on so many things. But also there are moments when I am tired of people not making the plan ahead of time and then it falling on me at the last minute because they didn't plan. And there's like some say that like your lack of planning isn't my emergency. And that was this. Even though it's not an emergency, it just felt heavy. And I was already like carrying a lot of other things, and this just topped it off. It just represented like the cherry on top for my frustration and lack of feeling of worth and all of these things at that moment. And my husband went with me to the store because I was like, oh, I've got a prescription. I got to go get my hormones picked up, ironically enough, because I'm totally a mess. And he's like, I'm going to go with you. So he's standing in line with me in there and he's like, what is going on? And I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want him to try and fix it. I didn't want him to be like, that's ridiculous. No. I didn't want to deal with any of that. And I thought if I tell him that he's going to feel bad and then he's going to say something to the kids and they're going to feel bad. And I don't want everybody to feel bad. I just want to figure this out. So I'm going to keep it bottled up and I'm not going to talk about it. And I was pissed. And I lost connection to my kids. I lost connection to my husband in that moment of that day because I wasn't talking. I was going inside of me and just keeping it all in. And I'm thinking, this is how I'm gonna keep the peace. I'm gonna keep it calm. But outside, everybody knows I'm angry or frustrated. Like I'm an open book. It's not like I'm not an easy read. But I'm like, they're not going to know. I'll just get through with this. No. And my husband's like, what is wrong? What is going on? And so finally I was like, all right, I'm just going to tell him. If it pisses him off, if it pisses him off. If it ruins the rest of the day, it ruins the rest of the day. That's not my responsibility. I get to own how I'm feeling. And so I told him, and he just like stood there quietly. And we're, again, in store. So it was like calm. I wasn't like yelling or screaming. I was like, this is just what I'm feeling. This is how I feel. I'm got a little teary while I'm talking about it. And I'm like, and I know this is my reality of what I've created, but also I'm tired of people not making a plan or not like telling me what their intentions are and not being clear with me about that. And I'm trying to express that and it's not like coming back to me. So he handles it great. He's kind about it. He doesn't really get me to like expand. He doesn't like push the topic. And I watched as he carried these emotions, which he's have to carry. And he didn't like take on my emotion. He didn't respond or react, but he did like hear what I was saying. And later on, like a little while later after we got home, he's like, what if we do this? And he's like, how about we order in Panda Express because the teenagers always love it and it's affordable when you order their catering. Side note, Panda Express catering, yes, it is not good for you. And yes, it is Panda Express, but it is super affordable for feeding a large crowd. So he's like, what if we get this? then whoever shows up has food. If there's leftovers, there's leftovers. Our kids will eat it. And you don't have to think about this. It is there for whoever wants it. And then if you want to play games after, we'll play games. And like, you can invite your brother over, like all these things. And I was like, oh. And it was so nice to know that I had been heard. And to understand that I could think I was keeping the peace and calm, and I wasn't. I wasn't. Everybody knew. It's not like I was hiding everything or hiding anything. And also, it was so beautiful to know that I had come to a place where first I felt safe enough in my marriage and relationship to express these things, because for a long time I didn't. Nobody's fault, just the reality of starting a second marriage and what we went through. And also, not only that, but my husband heard me. I felt safe. He loved me. He heard where I was coming from. And then he also had a solution, which we don't always want a solution, but that was something that felt really good to me in that moment. And he knew when to present it to me. Not right then when I was venting, he wanted me to feel heard. And then later on, he brought this to me. And this is what happens when, first of all, we create safety in ourselves to hear the things we're feeling, and then to be able to say and vocalize them to our partner. Okay? You get to create that safety for yourself. And if you think you are keeping peace and calm by not expressing things, it's bullshit. And if you think you are keeping connection to other people by not expressing yourself and staying disconnected from yourself, it's bullshit. And you can keep doing that, and you will keep harboring these feelings of anger, bitterness, and resentment, and they will grow and they will build until they blow up and destroy your relationships, destroy your career, destroy whatever it is that is important to you. So I encourage you to deal with them now. And if you want a starting point for understanding how you create safety to express yourself, how you start releasing this resentment and bitterness and anger, I encourage you to go pick up a free copy of my book, Shove Your Shoulds. You can get it at shoveyourshoulds.com/free book, or at the link below. And you can start unpacking these shoulds and start coming to your marriage, to your relationships, to your life in a way that feels really freaking good. I say it is free. You do cover shipping and handling. I want to be very clear about that, because I want you to be surprised when you go to my to the website there, okay? I believe in being honest. I want to touch back real briefly about something I talked about. I talked about the fact that sitting in this anger and resentment and bitterness is costing you money. And these emotions aren't signs that you're broken or that you're wrong. It's not wrong to feel them. They are important things to feel. All emotions are, in my view, good emotions, because they are all telling us things. They're giving us information as to what we need to do. Sometimes we're not meant to act on them in the moment, and that's where things get a little bit hazy, or we haven't been acting on them or listening to them, and so it gets explosive, and we are reacting instead of responding and having like clarity around how we react, or being in control of how we react. And so it feels like they're bad or wrong. But they are information, and they are telling you things that you need to do. They're telling you that you are going to lead towards burnout, and you are going to someday do something to really damage your marriage or relationship. Or maybe this marriage or relationship isn't safe for you to stay in, or maybe the job isn't safe for you to stay in. And it will get louder and louder until you listen. And it will cost you more and more money. And money isn't the end all be all, but so many women that I work with are afraid to leave their relationship because of finances. They are not the main breadwinner. They're afraid that they're going to lose retirement. They're afraid they're going to lose all of these things. Or maybe they are the main breadwinner and they're afraid it is going to get taken away. I just talked to somebody today who gave up a lot financially so that she could have full custody of her kids. Those are decisions may wait. But the longer you stay in a relationship that isn't serving you, the longer you stay or don't act on a business decision or a career change or something like that, the more it is costing you financially. And I want women and good individuals to have money because we change the world with money. Money speaks. It speaks. Think about this last year with Target. People have been unsatisfied with Target, and Target is a place where women spend money. And yet they are hurting this year because women use their voices and many of them stopped going. You'd have to go look all that up, but it is true. When you use your money for good, it translates and it speaks and it is heard. And therefore, I want you to keep as much of your money in your pocket as you can, which requires you to take action sooner than later. The longer you stay in a relationship that doesn't serve you, the more it is costing you. And it is costing you because, financial dollars, not just your connection to yourself, your connection to your kids, all that. We'll talk about that later. It is costing you dollars because it is the more assets you build up, the more connected you are to each other, the more bitter and angry you are, the more volatile the divorce process is going to be, and the more expensive your divorce is going to be. If you take action when you can sit in some logic and work through the divorce with some logic behind you and some coherency, which I also encourage you to get in coaching if you're getting a divorce, because they can get you clear on what points you need to talk to a mediator, a divorce attorney, or a counselor as you are navigating a divorce. I've heard this time and time again from my clients. They go into these meetings knowing what conversation needs to be had, and therefore it's saving them money because they spend less time on lawyers, less time in mediation, less time navigating the shit of divorce. That is the power of having a good coach in your corner, which is half the work that I do, probably more than half the work that I do, is helping you understand what conversations need to be had, getting you clear on what it is you want and need so that this costs less. And again, the longer you wait, the more explosive and divisive it is. And so when you take action sooner, you save more money. Okay? So go take the indecision cost calculator. You can take that at theboldlogic.com/indecision, or you can go to the link below, because I want you to keep as much money in your pocket as you can, because you are of value and you deserve that. And you deserve to feel that you can leave a relationship and maintain a certain type of life, or maintain feelings of happiness and joy and peace, and get the support you need as you navigate that. You get to have that. And I'm going to share something I wasn't planning on sharing, but just popped into my head. When I got divorced, I was not working outside the home. I did crafts and sewing, craft fairs, and I sewed and things like that, but I wasn't working outside the home. And I was not bringing in big bucks. I was bringing in random amounts of money to get us through the holidays and maybe a trip here or there to go home to see our parents and things like that. And so it felt pretty scary leaving. I was like, all right, I am going to do the single mom thing. I am educated. I am smart. I can get a job. I have skills. I will go do this. And we were living in Oklahoma at the time, and I was moving back to Boise, Idaho, where my ex and I owned a house together. And I moved in there, and the bank was like, hey, we can't refinance your house because we're looking into all these options, and we can't help you get support, because this is also during when the real estate market tanked and everything tanked, and I think we were in a recession. I don't even know what was going on. I just knew things were bad and that there was options for banks to help us. They said, you can't get help until you stop paying your mortgage. And we're like, what? We have always paid our mortgage. And they're like, if you stop paying, we can get you help. So I'm like, fine, I will stop paying. And I lived in our house for rent-free for a certain amount of time. And then I had other ways of making money that got me by for the time being. And then as that came to an end and I was moving out of that house because we sold it, I was like, okay, now I need to go get a real job and all of these things. And the woman that had been in charge of selling our house, because it was a short sale, she came to me the next day after. I'm having this pep talk with myself. You can do this. I had applied for jobs. I had been offered really good jobs, you guys, at this point. But emotionally, I knew it wasn't always best for me. I knew that getting by on the little that we had was better for me than trying to add one more thing into my life that during a time that already felt like a lot. So I I determined I'm going to go apply for jobs again. I'm going to find another job. I was working a little bit, just enough to get us by. I was like, I need to get a full-time job. I need to pull on my big girl pants and do this single mom. So again, I'm committed to this. My real estate agent calls next day. She's like, I didn't want to tell you this until I knew for sure. I have $5,000 for you if you sign and move out saying that you will leave your house clean and you won't destroy anything on your way out. And I'm like, done. Like, I wasn't planning on doing, like, destroying anything anyways. So I signed this, and I just started bawling because this $5,000 paid for the next, like, 6 months or so of my rent. And I went straight to my new apartment complex, gave them this $5,000 check, and knew my rent was paid for, which is what I needed to get by for the next foreseeable future. And then when that started coming to close, and again, I was like, okay, I got to get a job. This is fine. I can do this. An old family friend came to me and she said, Jessica, I am moving to California to take care of my dad. Would you and Penny want to move into my house for free? And I just wept. And I was like, yes, I do. And there were things that happened because I trusted my intuition about what was best for me during that time. I lived on next to nothing, and my daughter and I were so happy. We have some of the best memories. I still drive around those neighborhoods of where we were living at that time, which we were able to live in a great neighborhood. And I just think about all of the joy that was in my life amongst all of these hard things I was going through, and the reality that I had just been through divorce, and my husband was gay, and he cheated on me with a man, and all of these things. And yet, because I listened to my intuition of what was best for me, the universe responded, and things kept working out for my good. And I would trust them and act on them. And I let go of my ego that told me, oh, you should have more. You should have a job. You shouldn't take charity or whatever BS wanted to fill my head. And I acted on it. I trusted it. You have to let go of your ego. Story for another day. But when you listen to your gut, you are releasing that ego, and you get to do what is best for you. And fulfillment isn't always about doing more or having more. It's about doing what is true and best for you. And that is why I look back at that time when my daughter was 2 years old and I was a single mom and we were creating this life together. And I think about it with such joy and such kind eyes for this woman that I was. And I'm so proud of her for what she did. And I think about all my clients that have done the same, and I'm filled with that same pride. When I see women walking in a way that is best for them, my heart swells. And I want that for you. And you get to have that when you start taking action. And it starts small. It starts with taking that Should Score quiz, getting your free book, saying yes to the things that light you up, saying no to the things that feel like too much, saying no to people pleasing and setting those boundaries. You start with one at a time. You can't build connection to yourself while you are still betraying yourself. And if you've been through betrayal of any kind, you can't build connection to another person until you have repaired your own relationship with yourself. And you can do it. And I've seen it done time and time again. And I can't wait to support you as you continue through. So now that you know why you have these feelings of anger and resentment and bitterness and where they're coming from and how you can do something about it, you might want to learn about how to release the resentment and start building that deep trust with yourself and with others. How do you repair your life after any type of betrayal, whether it's self-betrayal, whether it's betrayal at work or betrayal from a partner or a family member or a friend? You want to rebuild trust with yourself, and then you can rebuild trust with others. It all starts by watching this next video here, because when you pair it with what you just learned in this video, it is going to be so powerful. I can't wait to see you there. Take care, my friend.